Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to today's session. Hi, everybody. Today we are going to be live solving a listening comprehension test. This week is going to be full IELTS. So we'll start off with listening and then we'll do speaking, then reading, then writing. Yes, it doesn't follow the exact order of the IELTS exam, but it follows the order that is convenient for us. So let me know if everything is good to go. I am audible and visible to you, and then we can get started. You can also tell me how you've been, how your weekend was. Hi Summer, hi Tanmay. Alright, so you know the drill. You need to get something to write your answers in. So quickly do that and then we will start. I too am gonna go grab my handy dandy notebook. Alright. Just checking if my pen's working. Seems to be alright. Very good. Are we all ready to get started? Okay, let's begin. And before we do, those of you who haven't yet, do sign up for your student admissions counseling. It is free, it is great, it is extremely helpful. Doesn't matter if you're in the 11th grade or the 12th grade, you can make use of this counseling. Alright? Okay, let's get started with the first set of questions. I am going to open up the recording very quickly. I'm not doing it quickly, so clearly I lied. As quickly as possible. Alright, here we have it. Hi Abhijit, good afternoon. Are we all ready? So those of you who are joining us for the first time, it's quite simple. All we're doing is solving a listening comprehension test. I'm going to play the recording for you. The questions are visible here on the screen. You have to read the instructions, you have to listen to the instructions, and then you have to answer the questions. Once we are done solving the entire test, which is about 28 minutes, 30 minutes long, then we will discuss our answers and you will get a band right away. So you will be able to see which band you were able to get in today's listening test. Alright? Ready to get started? I'm going to play the recording now.
There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Now look at section 1. Section 1. You will hear a woman making a telephone call about joining a cycling club. First, you have some time to read questions 1 to 6. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hi, is that the cycling club?
That's right. How can I help you?
I'm Beth. I've just moved to the village and have been thinking about getting involved with a cycling group.
Hi Beth, I'm James and I'm the club secretary. We're always keen to welcome new members. Have you got much cycling experience?
Not really. Does that matter?
Not at all. There are lots of cycling opportunities here. For example, some of our members take part in competitions throughout the year, if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we meet each weekend and just go cycling. We take a different route each time, ranging from easy to challenging, So there's something for everyone.
Oh, sounds fun.
It is.
Is there a joining fee? And what's included if there is?
There's an annual membership. It isn't much, but it covers things like our newsletter, which we email to members every few weeks, informing them of what's going on. We also have regular meetings here at the community centre. There's a small extra fee for that to cover refreshments, as well as any guest speakers who come along to talk to us about diet, avoiding injury, that kind of thing.
Great idea. Helpful for me to know about that kind of thing as an inexperienced cyclist.
Oh, and if you do join, we're giving all new members a free repair kit. We used to give a free water bottle for people's bikes, but most bikes come with those now, so...
Oh, that's useful. Now, do you meet at the community centre before you go on rides?
No, we meet outside the post office in Dudley.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. How do you spell it?
It's the next village. It's D-O-U-G-L-E-Y. The reason we meet there is because there's a large car park, which is handy for people from outside the area who drive in.
Ah, got it. And what would I need to bring if I went on any of the weekend rides?
Do you have proper cycling gear? There's a great local cycling shop which has some great offers on for our members at the moment. Long-sleeved t-shirts are very popular in this cold weather. And I bet you've never tried warmers for your knees before, have you? And do you have a pair of cycling gloves? You'd be amazed by how much the right clothing makes a difference to your comfort and abilities.
I'm sure.
Well, the shop will sort you out with what you need. Anything else you'd like to know?
Yes, I have 2 kids. I'm not sure whether or not they'd be interested in joining the club, but they don't have their own bikes yet. Is it possible to hire them here?
Absolutely. We do everything we can to encourage people of all ages to take up cycling. You can pay monthly, which works out cheaper, or each time you attend a weekly excursion. It depends how often you think you'll be joining us on rides, really.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 7 to 10.
I assume the rides you do are local?
Most of them, yes. We do longer trips when the weather's better. We sometimes stay away camping to make the most of it. One of our favourite excursions, most summers, is riding along the river as far as Brownside. That's about 100 kilometres away. Though this year we're going to the mountains, which will make a change. At some point in the future, we'll try the Lake District. That's something we've wanted to do for a while.
And you hold other kinds of events too, don't you? I heard you do an annual charity event. Is that right?
Yes, we do. We raised money for a new classroom at the local school last year through our sponsored bike ride. We have some other fun events too, like a party each year to celebrate the club's birthday. Members are welcome to bring their friends and family along to that.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's about everything. Oh, do you have the telephone number for the cycling shop you mentioned?
Yes, just a second. Here we are. It's 221 337.
Great. Oh, one more thing. It was my neighbour who told me about the club and suggested I contact you. But do you have a website website where you put information?
We do indeed. Go to www.getoutside, that's all one word, .com.
Great, thanks.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Alrighty, so it wasn't too difficult. A little bit of a confusion there with how to write the phone number. We will address that towards the end of the listening test. After this, we're going to move on to part 2. You don't have to shift your answers, so you can just use this time to chill or listen to me. In the test, you will have to use this time to check your answers, right? Just go through everything, make sure you haven't made any spelling errors.
Section 2. You will hear a talk on the radio about letter writing. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Good afternoon.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15. And now for the last part of today's programme, I'd like to welcome author Erica Winter, whose recent book entitled Say It in a Letter has already sold 10,000 copies. Over to you, Erica.
Thanks, Mark. In today's world, it's easy to think that letters are a thing of the past. We rarely write them, and when we do, it's usually to a bank or an organisation of some kind. We no longer tend to write letters to our friends. Yet this is something I think we will come to regret. It's what I call the lost art of letter writing. For one thing, letters used to consist of more than writing. Looking through some of my mother's old letters to me recently, I came across several that also had drawings in them. This wasn't uncommon in the past. Photos took much longer to print than they do now, and so people often drew something to show what they meant. In fact, my mother still does this, not only in her letters, but also sometimes on the envelopes. Another important thing about letters is that they represent one side of a conversation. And before the time of emails, these conversations could center on people's deepest secrets. As a child, letters would come through our door each morning from relatives and friends. As we got older, they became more personal. This made the letters important. It made you want to keep them. The ones I treasure I still have. They're tied up with ribbon and safely stored in a shoebox in my attic. I get them out from time to time and read them, and it's amazing because they remind me of how I felt all those years ago. What I was doing, who I was meeting, what I was looking forward to. And this is another thing about letters. They recreate the past rather like a diary. Yet they are more than that, because they invite a response. Emails will never tell us about the past in anything like the same way, unless we print them off and keep them. But who has time for that?
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 16 to 20.
So
So, if you want to give letter writing a try, and in the years ahead you may be very glad that you did, here are a few important tips. First, using a pen and paper is very different from using a keyboard and a screen. We can't easily change what we write with a pen, and so letters show much more of the thought process of the writer. And to get those thought processes going, you really need to make sure that the room you write in is a quiet one. And this means removing all mobiles, computers, tablets, and other distractions. Second, it's much more inspiring to write on decent writing paper using a fountain pen than it is to use an old notepad and a ballpoint pen. So make sure you have the equipment you need. It shows that you've taken the trouble to present your letter in the best possible way. Also, your letter will stand the test of time. Cheap paper quickly falls apart. As I said earlier, a letter is really one side of a conversation, and because of this, you may be asking your recipient, that's the person receiving your letter, to give you some answers to problems that you have. So, in other words, use your letters as a tool. If you're worried about your job, for example, you can consult others about the things that are bothering you, and so get the sort of advice that you need. You need to practice to make this really work for you, though. You need to think carefully about the wording of each question that you ask, so that you get the answers you need. Unlike emails that we tend to write quickly without paying too much attention to wording, letters need patience and thought. And lastly, make sure you know how to begin a letter, where to put your address and the date, for example, and how to finish your letter, depending on your recipient. Should you say best wishes, or yours sincerely, or simply love from? The ending you use must be suitable, or you might offend people. This will be something some listeners may have forgotten, or never had the chance to learn in the first place.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Alright, that's halfway through the listening test, so great job, guys. That may be cheating, giving people answers. Don't post your answers now. Do it when I ask you to towards the end. Alright. Now we're going to move on to part 3. That's going to be 21 to 30. And then 31 to 40 will be part 4. Alright. 3 is again going to be a conversation. 4 is going to be a monologue. I'll let you have some extra time.
Section 3. Section 3. You will hear 2 students talking about a course they are doing in Chinese at university, 1 to 24.
I'm really enjoying our Chinese language course so far, aren't you?
Yeah, I definitely made the right choice coming to this university. The teaching's so good, isn't it? I love the methods our tutors use. They really get the most out of us.
I never thought I'd learn so much so quickly. Goes to show what a difference it makes being taught by native speakers. If I'd known about that in advance, it would have confirmed my choice absolutely.
It's an aspect of the course which is really useful. It's cool having lots of options to choose from too, as far as topics to study is concerned, though that wasn't something I really considered in much detail when I was deciding where to study.
I know what you mean. I have to say I'm finding the culture course absolutely fascinating. I'm glad that's on the timetable. By the way, how are you finding living away from home in a big city?
Well, it was a bit of a nightmare at first, having grown up in a sleepy village in the middle of nowhere. I do miss the peace and quiet sometimes, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I had to try something new.
That's why I'm here too. There's no way I could live in the country. I'd be bored out of my mind. Do you think you'll spend the 3rd year studying abroad? We have the choice whether or not to go, don't we?
Why else would I have registered here? It's an unmissable opportunity, wouldn't you say?
I'm with you there.
It isn't as expensive to do as some of the study abroad programs at other universities.
Thankfully. Anyway, have you seen the list of study groups for next semester yet? We're allowed to join 2. I'm having trouble deciding which ones to join, actually. I'd like to do them all, though I know we won't have time, what with our regular lectures and everything.
Well, there's the grammar study group. My grammar could definitely do with a bit of polishing, though I have to confess I'm probably likely to give that a miss.
I've come to the same conclusion. The writing skills group would definitely be useful, especially if we end up working in China at some point.
I'd rather get my speaking skills up to scratch. You can never do enough practice there, so that's something I'm going to sign up for.
I'll go with that. What about literature analysis? Fancy that? Getting to grips with Chinese literature sounds like a real challenge.
And one I'll attempt at some later date, I think.
I was thinking about putting my name down for it, though, to be honest, I might be better off putting some work into understanding what people are saying to me. So, I think I'll go for that group.
I know what you mean. That's that decided then.
Backtracking.
Conversation. You have some time to look at questions 25 to 30.
Multiple choice questions, okay? Not multiple choice questions, sorry. Basically, you have to pick one of these and write them next to these questions. One of these 3. So you'll write A if A is applicable, B is if B is applicable, right?
Now listen carefully and answer questions 25 to 30. How have you been finding the free online resources we've been given access to? I found 1 or 2 of them useful, but some of them aren't as exciting as I'd expected them to be.
Right. I tried the chat room the other day for the first time. You know, where you can make contact with real Chinese speakers and practice your language skills. I was chatting to a really helpful user called May. The connection was pretty poor though, and I gave up in the end. I don't know whether it's always like that.
I had a similar experience, waiting ages for replies to come through. And what about the translation software? I've never been a great fan of it, but that stuff is really high-tech, isn't it? It's got all sorts of functions, though maybe at the expense of getting a precise interpretation of what you're trying to say.
You don't have to wait as long as you do for some translation software to do its stuff, but I think what you said is a universal problem with that kind of thing. Better to use our heads. What do you think of the vocabulary builder?
You know what? There's tons of useful and functional stuff to practice on there. I spotted several errors though, if you can believe that.
I noticed that too. Maybe we should raise that with our tutors. Let them know it's lacking in quality. We need top-rate stuff at our level. The dictionary's not bad, but I've seen ones that have some interesting extras like activity sections. Shame it doesn't have any of those.
I know. They can be slow to use though. The language lab's pretty lazy, isn't it?
I've only used it a couple of times, but I'd agree. There seem to be plenty of delays when it's setting up, though you can do some interesting things on it once you've got it running. Then there's the writing checker, the thing you type into and it tells you what typing errors you've made. I got a bit bored doing the same thing after a while though. It's a bit limited in what it can do. I think I'd rather have my tutor's feedback.
It would be better if it was a bit more interactive, though how that would work I'm not sure. Anyway, at least we've got access to the resources. They're better than nothing, even if they're not perfect. Right, shall we look at this next piece? That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
I thought that was quite easy, quite straightforward, nothing too difficult happening there. Hope you all felt the same. Last part now, okay?
Look at section 4. Section 4. You will hear part of a lecture about teaching maths to young people. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Why are we studying this? That's a question that as a high school maths teacher I was asked 1,000 times, and one that you, as trainee maths teachers, will certainly be asked in the future. What is it that makes maths seem so difficult and unapproachable for many students? Getting good at maths is less a matter of brain power than staying power. The difficulty lies in the amount of patience maths requires. And it needs persistence too. It's not a subject that comes automatically or intuitively to many students. Another question I used to be asked was, how am I going to use this in my life? And this is the crux of the matter. Unless students can really get to grips with the relevance of maths to their everyday lives, it makes teaching the subject a very tough task indeed, especially when they know that in this world of instant gratification, they can find answers to virtually any problem by doing a quick internet search. So, what can we, as teachers, do to make maths more accessible and interesting to our students? Well, for a start, we need to help them see how maths is needed in their daily interactions. Whether it's following a recipe or deciding how much paint you need for your kitchen walls, we need to help students see that it's maths that's at work in achieving these goals. It's easy to see why simply forcing students to employ methods of memorization or reciting formulas leads to a teacher's failure to inspire in the maths classroom. Maths is a universal language. Anywhere you go, you can interact with people in all walks of life, and they'll understand you if you speak maths. The language of numbers can help anyone perform daily tasks and make essential decisions. For thousands of years, the same principles of maths have been practiced by mankind around the globe. In order to get things done, especially in modern society, you simply have to employ maths. Your proficiency in the subject, or even a little knowledge of the fundamental operations of it, can help you shop wisely and stay within a budget, or get your head round population growth. Maths is also critical to a range of professions, and whatever your background, if you've been taught the basic operations of maths, you have the potential to become a millionaire. Just as literacy helps us get ahead in life, so does counting and the ability to make informed financial decisions. And it doesn't stop at work or daily transactions. Less obvious benefits of studying maths include other real-life applications, such as the ability to learn to play a musical instrument, become a dancer, or sail a boat. So, what is it that we need to be teaching? Yes, it's difficult to see how some mathematical concepts translate to the world outside education. Perhaps you'll never use a particular formula in your job, but by learning the process, you'll have trained your brain to solve problems whilst reinforcing the basics of maths. There are, however, formulas which are more transparently useful. Things like an ability to properly assess risk or statistics. Things which even students should be able to see will equip them for the world beyond education. Maths makes our minds flexible enough to find solutions to complex, real-world problems. Maths is a cumulative discipline. You have to gain an understanding in one area before you can effectively go on to acquire another. From the basic foundation of addition and multiplication to the complexities of quadratic equations, the only way to build a framework of knowledge is to learn step by step. So, how did I answer that question? What is the point of doing this? Until I got my students thinking about how they use maths to download music from the internet and hand over their cash for popcorn at the cinema, nothing I said made any difference. So I asked them to imagine a life with no maths. That would mean no means of marking time with calendars or watches, no money or concepts like measurement. The idea of missing birthdays, not being able to top up their mobile phones, and a halt to the development of computer games made them open their eyes to the reality of life without maths. What better way to demonstrate the purpose of maths than to relate it to their own existence? Moving on now to another aspect of maths teaching.
Alright, that's the end.
Section 4.
Okay, now why don't we start posting all our answers in the chat and then we can go through the correct answers and see what band we have gotten. I've already checked my answers. Seems to me like I made one mistake. That still puts me at a band 9. And my mistake was a very silly one. So when we get to it, we can discuss it. But right now, if you're all done, collate your answers, put them together, and then we can discuss the correct answers. Okay? Let's start with the first set of questions. Quite easy, quite straightforward. Okay, let's start with what about Tanmay? You missed the first part of the test or what? So, chance for members to enter what? Competitions, right? Extra fee covers meetings with guest speakers and what? Refreshments. What is refreshments? Food, snacks, something to eat, something to drink. Okay. New members receive a free repair kit for their bike. Club meets in the village of, now this was spelled out, so you should not have made a spelling mistake here because he said it loudly and very slowly. Answer was Dudley. Tops with long sleeves, warmers for knees. Payment for bike monthly basis. Any doubts here so far? If you have any questions or any doubts, only then I will stop and address the question. Otherwise, I'm just giving you the answers and moving on, okay? If there is a particular question that you did not understand the answer to, let me know and I will explain it again, okay? Now, activities and events. Now here there was one confusion. Write no more than 2 words or a number for each answer is what the instructions said. I feel like this was an error on the part of the instruction. Obviously, when you get a phone number, it's going to be more than one number, right? So it's okay if you wrote more than one number. In a situation like this, if the instruction says one number and it's practically impossible to write one number because the answer is literally a phone number, then write down the entire phone number, okay? All right. So here, yes, will be to the mountains. Very good, Tanmay. Club charity event, right? So charity number was 221337 and this was getoutside.com. Get outside is one word. Obviously, in a website, you cannot have multiple words. They're going to be no spaces between them. All right. Perfect. Next, you could write no more than 2 words and or a number. Here, the speaker describes letter writing as a lost art. Drawings, secrets, or deepest secrets because you can write 2 words. Keeps her treasure letters in a shoebox. Compares letters to a diary. Okay. Next, Find a quiet room. Avoid using paper which may not last. Letters can act as a tool. Question. Appropriate ending. Alright. Easy. Next. Here's where I made one silly mistake. What do you think were the answers for this, 21 and 22? I zoned out and I missed out on the first part of this. If we go back and listen.
Erica Winter, whose recent book entitled Say It in a...
But also sometimes on...
At section 3. Section 3. You will hear two students talking about a course they are doing in Chinese at university, 1 to 24.
I'm really enjoying our Chinese language course so far, aren't you?
Yeah, I definitely made the right choice coming to this university. The teaching's so good, isn't it? I love the methods our tutors use. They really get the most out of us.
I never thought I'd learn so much so quickly. Goes to show what a difference it makes being taught by native speakers. If I'd known about that in advance, it would have confirmed my choice absolutely.
It's an aspect of the course which is really useful. It's cool having lots of options to choose from too, as far as topics to study is concerned, though that wasn't something I really considered in much detail when I was deciding where to study.
I know what you...
This is where I messed up a little. I zoned out and I didn't hear her say this is not something I considered while deciding to attend the university. Because I didn't listen to her saying this, I thought wide choice of courses offered is one of the reasons. Even though she says right after this that wasn't something I considered. So there was backtracking here which I fell prey to. And I fell prey to this backtracking, got one answer wrong because I marked C as one of the answers, which is not one of the answers, okay?
What you mean? I have to say I'm finding the culture course absolutely fascinating. I'm glad that's on the timetable. By the way, how are you finding living away from home in a big city?
Well, it was a bit of a nightmare at first, having grown up in a sleepy village in the middle of nowhere. I do miss the peace and quiet sometimes, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I had to try something new.
That's why I'm here too. There's no way I could live in the country. I'd be bored out of my mind. Do you think you'll spend the third year studying abroad? We have the choice whether or not to go, don't we?
Why else would I have registered here? It's an unmissable opportunity.
Right, so the two things mentioned are what? Why else would I register here? The fact that she says this means that the reason she registered for this university, one is for the opportunity to study abroad, and secondly, as both of them mentioned, was the location, right? This was a plus point, but this was not a reason. A plus point, not a reason initially, right? So these are things that they're discussing as something they like about the university, but these are not the reasons why they chose this university. Why? What is the question asking? Two reasons the students give for choosing the university. So this was a tricky one. I also messed up here, got one answer wrong, right? The correct answers are the opportunity to study abroad and the location. Instead of the opportunity to study abroad, I picked the wide choice of courses offered, right? So these two things were mentioned as a plus point, but they were not a reason for choosing the university. The reasons for choosing the university were the opportunity to study abroad and the location of the university. All right? That's clear? Did anyone else get this wrong, or did you all get it right? Did anyone else mess up like I did, or were you all able to actually get the correct answers for this? Let's see, Tanmay, what you got. Oh, you were right. Great job, Tanmay. I zoned out a little bit there. Okay, next two were what? What did they choose to attend? Conversation practice and listening skills. BNE, this was quite easy. This was straightforward, right? Next, what were the issues? So the issues were also again easy only. This was too slow. This was not accurate. This was not accurate. This was too few features. Too slow, too few features. So A, B, B, C, A, C. Those were your correct answers. And here one word for all of the math stuff. Oh my god, I really zoned out, or was on the verge of zoning out in this one, even though what he was saying was quite interesting and I wanted to listen to him, but I don't know, maybe I'm just sleep deprived. I really could not focus. Somehow I managed to focus and got this right. So this one, patience, relevance, from using a, okay, this one was weird. I got confused because nobody really uses the verb using with a recipe, but that's the only thing he stated. So I wrote down recipe and it was the right answer. But I feel like there is an error in this question because no one really says using a recipe, unless that's something that's said in the UK. I will have to check. I personally found it odd, but since he talked about painting and decorating and following a recipe, that's why I wrote down recipe. Okay, and that is the correct answer here. Next we had involving memorization or repetition. People have applied similar principles. Stick to a budget. Make sure you're getting the spellings correct. Principal, P-A-L is your school ka principal. These principles, that's how you spell the word. Maths is essential for our career, much like literacy skills. Studying risk assessment or statistics. The way to study maths is to start from a foundation of simple ideas and build money or measurement. Right, so these were our correct answers. These are the correct answers. No method, it was actually from using a recipe to decorating a room, which I also found a bit odd. Maybe that's correct usage. I'll have to do a bit of research. I will confirm in tomorrow's class whether or not it is correct usage, because I've never heard that being said and it sounded odd to my ears. Okay, so drop your band. Drop your band in the comments. All right, I got one mistake. So why am I writing it down like this? One wrong. I got one wrong, so I'm just gonna write down my name, Asmita. One wrong, which means I got 39 out of 40 is equal to a band 9. Okay, so similarly, your name, how many you got, you can also just give me this score and then the band that you got. Okay, you will get the band breakdown in your in a simple Google search or in any of the older videos that we have done. Okay, wow, Tanmay, claps on getting a 40 on 40. Great job. Rest of you, Tanmay, even you, drop your bands in the comment of this video. Okay, not in the chat, in the comments. And that brings us to the end of today's class. Short, sweet, to the point. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you haven't and following us on Telegram if you don't. I will see you tomorrow with a live solving of speaking. Okay, bye-bye, take care. Don't forget to drop your band in the comments. All right, bye.